Cruz Devon, and welcome to This Gay Life. Today we have a special show. Our guest is the one and only Alix Dobkin, who is a professional entertainer, has been for 40 years, a professional lesbian for 20 years, and she has 6 albums out, a songbook, and she's performed on several different continents. I mean, she's just extraordinaire. I'd like to introduce her now, Alix Dobkin.
And, well, hi.
Hi. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I realize there's a lot of press out about you already, but let's hear your version.
Well, some of it's good, some of it's bad. What I say is just spell the name right. I've been in public life for, as you said, about 40 years. I was a folk singer in the late 50s and 60s. I went to the Village and spent a lot of years in Greenwich Village playing folk music and traveling around to the Midwest and up and down the East Coast. And then I got married and went down to Florida, to Miami, and opened a club with my husband. We had a wonderful folk club down there.
Oh,
and then we moved back to New York, and I quit singing for a couple of years, had a baby, and then separated from my husband, and decided I wanted to do things for myself and just make myself happy. And all of a sudden, there were only women in my life. Amazing. I never made that decision. It just, happened. And then I became a feminist, and then I came out as a lesbian in 1972, and I've been a lesbian ever since. And I started writing. I had been writing songs as a folk singer, and then I started writing songs about my own life, and they were lesbian songs because I was a lesbian. And that was before there was such a thing as women's music, and I was one of the first, not the only one, but one of the first to start writing about myself as a lesbian.
A lot of people may not know, when we talk about women's music, what we're talking about. Do you have a definition? What is
Well, I have a definition. Everybody, I guess, has their own.
And that happened during the 80s. We had so many of them floating around.
Well, I came out in the 70s, and that's when I produced Lavender Jane Loves Women with Kay Gardner and Marilyn Reese. And Lavender Jane was a trio. And women's music to me is music which is by, for, and about women. It's not a sound. It's not any particular style. It's all styles. It's whatever women do about ourselves. And so it's woman-based and it's me-based, which is my favorite thing, me-based stuff.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's kind of, it comes from the heart that way. Everybody.
Well, anything that's any good comes from the heart.
Instead of from the commercial side of one's brain, I guess. In the 80s, there seemed to be a little bit of a definition thing. It was like a identity crisis for women's music, and I remember in the radio stations and stuff, people would call up, or women would call up and say, well, that's not women's music, why are you playing that? Because it was a commercial song. And I know there was a lot of that going on. And finally, I think it's settled down to what you said, for women, about women.
By, for, and
about women.
Well, that works for me.
Yeah.
And you can find music like that throughout history as long as there was music. There was that kind of music. But this has a kind of consciousness to me. It says something. It says something that's centered on women, not as part of men, not depending on a relationship with men, depending on ourselves. So that's how I look at it. And this question of definitions, it's always been hard to define, what's a good definition of lesbian? Well, I've never really heard one, frankly. And at first it was kind of disturbing. You want to be clear and concise. But then the more I thought about it, the more I really liked the idea that there is no definition for us, because we defy being categorized, because it's such a broad, if you'll pardon the expression, it's such a wide category that we are not definable. But the presence of lesbian presence is almost palpable. It is palpable. But definitions are really hard to come by. And I think that's good. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're so troublesome to some people who feel like they have to control everything. Because we're not controllable. We're uncontrollable. And that's a good thing. And we're not predictable. You know, we're not on that marketing curve nearly as much as non-lesbians or as conventional people. We're not predictable. We're not easily manipulated, not nearly as much as people who are afraid to be themselves and be creative about their identity. So when we have that freedom and that response to freedom of creativity, rather than the need to control everything, it gets very hard to put us in a box.
Yeah. You said when you were coming out, or I guess before you came out, that you began seeing yourself as a feminist, and within that context, you're surrounded mostly by women, and then you decided that what you probably were was a lesbian, I guess. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. You can correct me. I'm just trying to synopsize. But do you think that being a feminist helped you realize being a lesbian, or vice versa, or?
Precisely. Yeah, I came to my lesbianism. I liked being heterosexual. I liked men. I always hung out with men. I liked having sex with men, with my husband. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was an emotional closeness. The problem was interest. I began to find women so much more interesting than men. And as I said, when I wanted to do something for myself, I wanted to do what pleased me. Mm-hmm. And that's how I evolved into being a lesbian, was my own well-being. Mm. And you know, before I came out as a lesbian, I was a feminist. And I remember somebody asked me, are you a lesbian, Alix? And I wasn't at that time. But I thought about it. Well, before I knew what was happening, the words came out of my mouth. Did it ever happen to you?
Yeah.
Yes. And these words came out, well, I don't know if I'm a lesbian, but deep in my heart, I hope I am. And I was so shocked that I had said that, but it really gave myself permission to be a lesbian. I think that was one of the bravest things I ever said, was I really hope I am.
Well, that's a nice thing to aspire to. I think so.
And I've never regretted it. I've never felt the slightest shame or regret at all, not a second. It's only been a positive, wonderful thing. I really recommend it for everyone to come out, at least think about it, because it's a very self-affirming and courageous stand to take.
Well, in this area, though, a lot of people will say, well, I can't come out, I can't. And as it is, I can kind of hear the repercussions now. It's like, see, all those feminists, they're lesbians.
Well, you know what happens when you point a finger. There's three pointing back at you. My feeling about homophobia is fear of being queer. Lesbophobia is fear of lesbians. Mm-hmm. And when people have very strong reactions against lesbians or gay men, I always have to think, what is it that they're trying to protect themselves from? What is it they're afraid of about themselves? Mm-hmm. Because it resonates. Somehow it gets this reaction. And I used to be very homophobic. I used to make fun of lesbians. I was superior. I couldn't understand how that could happen. And like I say, I had a very negative attitude towards it, and a very superior attitude. I mean, I was really obnoxious, I have to say. But I know where that came from. It came from my love of women and my desire to be close to women and to love myself. And as soon as I've got in touch with that truth of my inner imperative, then I changed myself. So coming out really is an affirmation of our creative ability, of our ability to change, of our ability to face up to fears, because fear is our greatest enemy. It's fear that keeps people locked into this stagnation and immobility. And there are only two responses to freedom. And one is trying to control everything. And the other is to be creative and take risks and not to be afraid of making mistakes. Life is full of mistakes. Life is full of failure.
What about people who decide, like, well, I really like being gay, but I don't want anybody else to know?
Well, I understand that, because gay people are killed and murdered and worse. So that's a very real fear, because people are so frightened themselves of their own gayness, of their own queerness, that they have to suppress everybody else so they don't have to think about it. It's called denial. And so I understand why people are afraid. But I'll tell you, Cruz, I have met hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly lesbians, but gay men also, who have come out, and I have never met one who regretted it. Even if it made their life harder, even if they lost their job, even if they their children were taken away from them, all the things that society tries to do to keep us under control, even if those happened, they're glad because they feel so much like themselves. They're fulfilling their purpose. See, I'm really an evangelist, and my job, my gospel, my job is to go around everywhere I can and tell women they can be lesbians. You can love yourself. You can love women. This is a possibility. It is an option, and you need to go towards wholeness, because those who try to control us, they want to fragment us. They want to cut us up into little bits of ourselves. That way they can control. They can control different pieces. They can control us if we're whole people. And if we go towards wholeness, we go towards loving ourselves.
I've heard that before. A lot of women, they said, well, I came out later in life because I never knew that being a lesbian was an option. And
Well, I didn't. I didn't until I came out, until lesbian feminism in the early 70s. I knew there were lesbians, and I was aware of them.
Okay, was it true? Were all the feminists lesbians?
No, definitely not. No, I used to think that all lesbians were feminists, but that's not true either. It was a great disappointment. I had a lot of illusions when I came out. I've learned a whole lot in my 20-plus years being a lesbian, and being a lesbian means that I have given myself permission to be whoever I'm supposed to be, and that's my mission on the globe right now. That's why I was born, to be whoever I'm supposed to be. And that's everybody's job, to be that unique individual that they were meant to be, that potential that they were born with, to contribute to the world and play a role that's uniquely theirs. And we can only do that if we listen to our inner imperative and be a whole person, and to face up to whatever frightens us, to look that fear right in the face and make the hard choice. Don't take the easy road. You know, people will make the easy choice, take the easy way out, time and time again, and pretty soon they're doing evil stuff. That's evil. But you take the hard way, you look at things directly, and you face up to things, and you're going to have a harder time maybe in the beginning, but you're going to strengthen yourself. You're going to become whole. You're going to be happy in your body. You're going to be happy in your life. And you're going to change your life to suit yourself so that you can do the most good in the world.
Well, one part of being whole that I've found is my own inner sense of spirituality.
That's right.
And to me, I mean, it may not have a name, or it may not have a church or a building that it has to go to once a week, but it's a very strong conviction that I have. In your travels and becoming a lesbian and learning more about the community, what kind of spiritualities have you found out there?
Lesbians are the most spiritual people I know, because I have to keep saying this over and over, we go to our own heart for guidance. And so there's a resonance of spirituality. And to me, spirituality is, in a way, the polar opposite of religion. Religion is organized control. You have to do this in order to be righteous. You have to do this, say that, be here, do that, this. But spirituality, on the other hand, is a creative relationship with the world in harmony. You see? It's not imposing your will on people, on animals, on life, and trying to force it into your own preconceived ideas or what somebody tells you should happen. You are being creative, and you are being at one with the world, and you are being receptive to the forces, the whole forces, the healthful forces, the wholesome forces in the world, and you are living your life as you were meant to live it.
A lot of people would say that sounds really Eastern, and I've heard a lot of talking about spirituality, and there seems to be not necessarily a rift, but there seems to be, especially lately, a lot of people saying, "Well, I'm gay, I'm Christian, or I'm lesbian and I'm Christian, and it's not fair for people to say that, you know, that we're all godless heathens in some way or another. Although I do know there's so many other religions besides Christianity. I mean that are even founded. Do you find when you're out performing like a huge swatch, or is usually lesbians about the same movement, about the same spiritual movement?
I think it is. I think it's what all the things I've named, that lesbians are really trying to, and not all lesbians, you know, I'm making these generalizations, and there are plenty of people, or at least there are some people, and even men, and even non-gay men, who are on a righteous, what I would call a righteous path. And in every spiritual practice, even in most religious practices, there are whole, good, positive values. So one doesn't have a monopoly, and anybody that tries to say, well, we have the only way, you have to be suspicious of them, because they have something to hide, and they want to control you. And anybody who tries to control you, you know, you got to stay. That's the 10-foot pole category. You want to stay away from those people, because they don't have your best interest at heart. They can't. They don't know you. Nobody knows you but you. And it's a self-discovery process. So the point is to be on the path towards wholeness.
Towards your wholeness.
Towards your wholeness, towards the wholeness of the earth, of creatures on the earth, of the forces on the earth, of everything that's positive and creative and constructive in the world. The life-giving, life-affirming forces. That you're on that path, and it doesn't matter what you call it, as far as I'm concerned. You can call it Christianity, and that's fine. And there are definitely Christians who are on that path. And there are Buddhists, there are Hindus, there are Muslims, there are Jews, there are Protestants, Catholics. Everybody has their own path. And the point is to get on that path and be moving towards wholeness, be moving towards self-love and self-affirmation. And then you can play your role that you were meant to play on this earth, and to move it forward so that life, the quality of life, improves for everyone.
One of the things that you've been doing, not only for for education, you're writing your memoirs, which I think is wonderful.
Yes. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's a little
well, it is a
tough.
memoir. It's not all, jello, But can you give us a few hints about what's going on in the memoirs?
This is my pre-lesbian memoirs. My music is particularly for women. I mean, I love it when anybody gets something out of my music, but it's directed towards women and women who love women in particular. My memoirs, on the other hand, is for a broad audience, for anyone, because I write about the 40s. I'm 54 years old. And I'm writing about the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s in these memoirs. And I'm writing it largely to put out my experience in a world that's gone. The 40s are gone. The kind of life that I knew growing up on the Upper West Side in New York City, that doesn't exist anymore. You know, I talk about being a Dodgers fan and going to Ebbets Field. Well, that kind of spirit of support for a team like the Brooklyn Dodgers back in the mid-40s
doesn't exist.
I've never seen it anywhere. And ever since the Dodgers left Brooklyn, I haven't been interested in baseball, frankly. It just bores me. And then I talk about the 50s and, political movements and growing up as a teenager in those times when rock and roll first came on the scene, when the Supreme Court decision was handed down, with desegregation, when TV frozen dinners first came on the scene. I mean, amazing thing, when the Salk vaccine came about, and all of a sudden we didn't see those polio billboards with the iron lungs, which would terrorize families, when television first made more money than radio did, and those days, that kind of excitement outside the conventional mode of life, when reading Mad magazine and Panic magazine and watching the Ernie Kovacs show and Kukla, Fran and Ollie and shows like that, and then into the 60s, into Greenwich Village, into the folk scene in the late 50s and early 60s, and I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time, moments in history when huge changes occurred. And we didn't know that was happening at the time. We didn't realize in 1954 and 55 that these little things were happening that would change the course of everybody's life. And so I write about that in the or I will be writing about that in the 60s. I'm about halfway done. I'm 15 years old now. It's 1955. And I just finished a segment where I lived in Kansas City for 2 years and went to Shawnee Mission High School and got a real education in America. There's a whole America that kids are not educated about, that people are ignorant of. There are movements, there are progressive movements, the labor movement, the struggles of people, what people in community have accomplished that's obliterated from our history. America has a wonderful, rich, I love America. I'm so grateful to be an American in this time because this is where it's happening as far as I'm concerned. This is the most exciting, wonderful, creative place to be. It's also one of the scariest places to be. But we have that polarity. It's the best of worlds and it's the worst of worlds. So we have to choose what we bring into our life and create a life that's satisfying and rich and that improves the quality of life for everyone. I keep coming back to that because that is my mission, that is my gospel.
Well, one of the things we want to talk about before the end of the show, obviously, is you're going to be playing in concert.
Oh, right.
On Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was forgetting.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be on Saturday.
Saturday night.
At the Unitarian Church.
Yep, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, and it'll be $8 to $10 sliding scale. And if you need the address, I haven't got it handy. I wasn't prepared. But it's on Battlefield. You can look it up in the telephone book. And if you have any questions, we'll have a number at the end of the show. Just give us a call, and we'll give you any information you'd like.
And it's $8 to $10 sliding scale, but nobody will be turned away. And I'll tell you, if you're not happy with the show, you come to the show, and you are not satisfied, I will give you your money back. You just come see me after the show. I will hand you your money back if you were dissatisfied. But you've probably never seen a show like it. It's going to be different.
Well, tell us about your music. How would you say your music is? What is your music? I mean, because people right now, they're going, okay.
Well, it's about me, and it's about my observations. And I like to think that it's very well-written music. It's folk music. It's folk-based music. I play guitar. I sing a couple of a cappella songs. I do some folk music, but I do music that I write about what I've observed, what I've learned, what my experience has been as a lesbian, as an observer, and a participant in some of the most exciting times that have ever occurred in the world. So I expect that you'll have a few laughs, and I hope you get some things to think about that you haven't thought about before. I hope you come away from that concert with your mind just going, because you haven't thought about some stuff that maybe I've provoked or touched off in your mind. So that's my goal, is to get people really thinking in ways that maybe they haven't before.
Would you categorize your music as women's music?
Sure.
I mean, only women's music, or more than that?
Well, as you said in the beginning, it really is a very kind of generalized. It's hard to define. I would, but then that doesn't really say much about what the music is. I would say that most people would be able to identify more with folk music, because it's a style that they recognize, that they can identify. And I do some show tunes and a couple of pop tunes. So it's a mix. It's quite a mix.
You just recently did something in Australia, and one of your albums is Yahoo.
Yahoo Australia. Yeah, we recorded that live in Sydney in 1990, and that was great. Those Australian women, they are wild. They are great. The audience is the star of that album, as far as I'm concerned. Their reactions, and I do some, I think, really strong material on it. I'm very pleased with that album. I think it's a really good album. My latest album is called Love and Politics, and I released that in '92. No need to apologize. And that's a compilation of 20 songs. It's a CD and a cassette. It covers 30 years of my work. And it's sort of, it's a sampler from my other albums, plus a couple of previously unrecorded songs. So that's my latest album.
You'll have copies of
Yes,
most
I
of your
will.
stuff?
Yes, I will. I'll have just about everything.
And maybe even put a thumbprint on them, or
Whatever. Whatever suits you.
Okay. Just another reminder: the concert will be at 7 p.m. at the Unitarian Church on Saturday, and that's on an $8 to $10 sliding scale. And if you need information about that, we'll have a telephone number you can contact us at. Or if you just want to like show up, it is at 7 o'clock, and the address is in the phone book under the Unitarian Church. And is this going to be a women-only concert?
Yes. Yes. All you gals, just come on down. We're going to have fun. I guarantee you're going to have a fun time.
And you don't have to be a lesbian or a feminist.
No, no. My daughter loves my shows, and she's not a lesbian. She's 24. She was just 24, and her friends love my shows, and all kinds of women come to the shows that aren't lesbians, and they get a kick out of it. They enjoy it, and unless you're really, a lot of women are frightened to come to something like that. You know, they think they'll get exposed. Well, oh yeah, I definitely recruit, but no, they're afraid to be seen. You know, it's this whole fear thing that they don't want. You know, that they're afraid because there are hateful people. Who try to make us afraid so they can control us. And when you buy into that, you lose a little bit of yourself.
Not to mention you help them out.
and we can't do that. We can't give in to that because they're bullies. And if you give in to a bully, you're going to lose yourself. We can't do that. We can't afford to lose ourselves. We have to take good care of ourselves.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you for being here, Alix. It's
Thanks,
it's been great fun.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've enjoyed it too.
I want to remind everybody, please come to the concert. It's going to be great. Remember, that's at 7 o'clock at the Unitarian Church, Saturday, October, I don't know what the date
29th.
is. 29th. Okay, 29th. And thank you for joining us here, and my guest, Alix Dobkin. Welcome to This Gay Life, and we'll see you next time.